What if I told you that something as ordinary as how often you ejaculate could change your risk of prostate cancer by a full third? Sounds shocking, right? But here's the truth. Most men have no idea what's quietly happening inside their prostate every single day, and waiting until symptoms show up can be the difference between catching a problem early or facing a fight for your life. I know this is an uncomfortable topic. A lot of men would rather ignore it or joke about it than face the reality. But let me be blunt, ignoring your prostate doesn't make the problem go away. In fact, after age 40, the prostate almost always begins to change. And those changes can affect everything from how well you sleep at night to your confidence in your masculinity to whether or not you develop cancer. Think about it, waking up 3, 4, even 5 times a night just to use the bathroom straining with a weak stream or feeling like you never fully empty your bladder. Those are the daily frustrations that millions of men carry in silence. And behind those symptoms, something far more serious can be brewing. But here's the good news. Science has given us some powerful answers that can help you take back control of your prostate health, and they're not as complicated as you might think. For example, Harvard researchers found that men who ejaculated at least 21 times per month lowered their risk of prostate cancer by 33% compared to those who didn't. That's not a myth, that's data. And it's just one piece of the bigger picture that I want to share with you today. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain the 3 major changes that happen to your prostate after the age of 40. And more importantly, I'll give you a clear 4-pillar plan you can start using today to protect yourself. And yes, one of those pillars involves a simple, everyday food you probably already have in your kitchen, something that could quietly become your prostate's best friend. So, if you've ever wondered whether frequent ejaculation is helping or hurting you, or if you've worried about those late-night bathroom trips, stay with me. Because understanding what really happens to your prostate and what you can do about it could change the course of your health for the next 20 years. Let me begin with the question that brought you here, because it's the same question I hear whispered in my office almost every week. Does frequent ejaculation, whether through sex or masturbation, really matter for your prostate health? And not just in terms of how comfortable you feel in the bathroom, but in terms of cancer longevity and your quality of life as a man. The short answer is yes, it matters. And the longer answer is even more fascinating than most people realize. For years, scientists wondered if sexual habits could influence prostate disease. Most of us assumed it was just a myth, the kind of thing guys joke about in locker rooms. But then a team of Harvard researchers decided to track this question on a scale no one had ever done before. They followed more than 32,000 American men over nearly 2 decades, monitoring their sexual activity and their health outcomes. What they found changed the conversation forever. According to this landmark study, men who ejaculated 21 times or more per month had about a 33% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times per month. Let me put that in plain English. That means frequent ejaculation was associated with nearly 1/3 less risk of one of the most common cancers in men. That's not a small detail. That's a major lifestyle factor on the same level as maintaining a healthy weight, exercising, or avoiding cigarettes. Now you might be asking, how on earth could that work? That's where the prostate flushing hypothesis comes in. Picture your prostate like the plumbing system in your house. When water is running through the pipes every day, things stay clean, clear, and functional. But when water just sits there, stagnant debris builds up. Over time, that buildup can corrode the system, block the flow, and cause pressure where there shouldn't be pressure. The prostate works in a similar way. Every ejaculation clears out older fluid dead cells and potentially harmful substances. In other words, you're literally flushing the gland, lowering the chance that toxins or unstable cells have time to accumulate. But here's where I need to be completely transparent. Ejaculation is not a magic bullet. It's not the golden ticket to lifelong health. You cannot eat fast food every day, avoid the gym, skip your doctor's appointments, and then assume that frequent masturbation or sex is enough to protect you. It doesn't work that way. What this research tells us is that ejaculation is one piece of a much larger puzzle. Think of it as routine maintenance. Change in the oil in your car helps prevent engine problems. But if you never check your brakes, never rotate your tires, and never refill your fluids, you're still headed for a breakdown. So, yes, ejaculation helps. It keeps the system moving, it supports circulation, and it lowers cancer risk. But if you stop there, you're missing the bigger story, because the real question is this: what exactly is happening to your prostate? As you age, that makes this flushing so important. And that right there brings us to the turning point, because after age 40, the prostate doesn't just sit quietly anymore. It begins to go through changes, structural, hormonal, and cellular, that explain why so many men start to feel like their own body is working against them. And once you understand these three big changes, you'll never look at your nightly bathroom trips or your prostate the same way again. Here's the reality most men don't want to hear. Once you cross 40, your prostate doesn't stay the same. It begins to change in ways that can quietly affect your daily life long before you notice something is wrong. And the truth is, those changes don't ask for your permission. They happen simply because time is moving forward. But understanding what they are gives you the power to push back. The first shift is enlargement and fluid retention. The medical term is benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. The word benign sounds harmless, but living with it is anything but. As the prostate gradually grows, it squeezes the urethra, yet the narrow tube that carries urine out of the body. That's why so many men tell me they stand in front of the toilet and wait, straining for a weak stream that just dribbles out, or they wake up 3, 4, even 5 times a night, their sleep wrecked by the constant urge to pee. Many men notice this imbalance not only in their urinary symptoms, but also in lower energy, reduced muscle mass, and sometimes even changes in mood. The body doesn't just age, it reprograms itself, and the prostate is caught in the crossfire. The third shift is an increased risk of abnormal cells. Every single day, your body replaces billions of cells. Most of the time, this process runs smoothly, but with age, the chance of errors creeps higher. Combine decades of cell turnover with low-grade inflammation and hormonal disruption, and suddenly the risk of mutations rises. Some of those mutations stay harmless. Others begin to divide uncontrollably, and that's when cancer becomes a real threat. This is why prostate cancer is so much more common in older men than in younger ones. It's not just bad luck. It's a numbers game stacked against you as the years go by. When I explain these 3 shifts, enlargement, hormonal imbalance, and abnormal cell risk to my patients, I can see the fear in their eyes. Nobody wants to feel like their own body is betraying them. But here's the key point. I always remind them, aging is inevitable, but decline is not. You can't stop time, but you can change how your prostate responds to it. And the earlier you start, the more control you gain. So let me ask you, if your prostate is guaranteed to change after 40, wouldn't you want to know about every possible cause and every possible solution? Because some researchers now believe there's a hidden culprit inside the prostate, something most men have never even heard of, that could explain why symptoms can get so much worse. Now that you understand the three major shifts that happen after 40, let's go a step further into a theory that's a little more controversial, but too interesting to ignore. It's called the prostate clog theory. I first came across it in research out of Japan, and while not every Western doctor agrees with it yet, I believe it offers an important perspective worth sharing. The idea is simple. Over time, your prostate may accumulate hardened clusters of dead cells protein, debris, and toxins that your body fails to fully clear out. These little blockages act almost like stones in a drain. Instead of fluid moving freely through the gland, circulation slows. Pressure builds, and when pressure builds, symptoms worsen, urinary flow weakens, inflammation spikes, and the gland itself swells even more. Picture it this way. Have you ever left coffee grounds in a filter for too long, letting them sit and dry out? What starts as a thin layer becomes a hardened clog that water can barely penetrate. That's what Japanese researchers believe can happen inside the prostate, a slow, sticky accumulation that becomes harder and harder to flush as the years go on. Now, to be completely transparent, this theory is still debated. Some American urologists say it hasn't been proven beyond a doubt. But here's the part that catches my attention. Men in these Japanese studies who targeted this clog with certain mineral-rich spring waters and herbal compounds reported easier urination within weeks. Their prostates seemed to shrink, not because of surgery or drugs, but because the blockages dissolved. Is it the water itself, the minerals, the increased hydration? We don't know yet. But what it does highlight is this: the prostate is not just a passive organ. It's dynamic. It responds to circulation, to hydration, and to the environment inside your body. So whether or not you fully believe in the prostate clog theory, it drives home a crucial point. Your prostate needs to be kept clear. Not once a year, not only when symptoms show up, but consistently every single day. And that brings us back to why frequent ejaculation helps. It's one of the body's natural ways of clearing the system, but flushing alone isn't enough. You also need to nourish the gland, reduce inflammation, and protect the delicate tissues from further damage. I like to think of it as car maintenance. Imagine changing your oil regularly, but ignoring the air filter, the brakes, and the tires. Eventually, something breaks down. Your prostate is the same. Ejaculation is one form of maintenance, but it's not the whole service package. You need to cover all the bases if you want smooth performance. And here's where I want to shift gears from theory to action. Because theories are interesting, but what you really need is a plan you can live by. That's why I teach all my patients about what I call the 4 pillars of prostate protection. They're practical. They're evidence-based, and they're things you can start doing today without waiting for a prescription or a miracle supplement. So if you've ever wondered what real everyday steps you can take to protect your prostate, let's dive into the 4 pillars that make the biggest difference. By now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. The prostate changes with age, and there might even be hidden clogs inside. But what can I actually do about it? That's the question I hear most often, and it's exactly why I created what I call the 4 pillars of prostate protection. These are the practical, science-backed habits that give you the best chance of keeping your prostate healthy for decades to come. Pillar 1 is annual checkups. I cannot stress this enough. Once you turn 40, seeing your doctor for a yearly prostate evaluation is non-negotiable. That includes 2 things: the PSA blood test and the digital rectal exam. I know no man jumps for joy at the thought of that exam. Some even avoid it out of embarrassment. But let me ask you this: would you rather deal with 30 seconds of awkwardness or years of suffering because a cancer went undetected? Early detection can mean the difference between a simple outpatient procedure and a life-threatening battle. One of my patients once told me, that exam saved my life and it was over before I even realized it started. He was right. Pillar 2 is an anti-inflammatory diet. What you put on your plate shows up in your prostate. Diets heavy in red meat, fried foods, and processed sugar fuel chronic inflammation, which is like throwing gasoline on a fire that's already smoldering. The alternative, vegetables, fruits, nuts, olive oil, lean proteins, and yes, tomatoes. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant proven to protect the prostate. And here's a pro tip. Lycopene absorbs better when tomatoes are cooked. That means pasta sauce, chili, or even tomato soup can be more effective than a raw slice on a burger. Think of it as edible medicine that also tastes good. Pillar 3 is consistent movement. Notice I didn't say extreme workouts. You don't need to run marathons or spend hours in the gym. What you do need is regular moderate activity, 30 minutes a day of brisk walking, cycling, swimming, or lifting light weights. Exercise balances your hormones, reduces inflammation, and improves circulation throughout the pelvic area. And here's one exercise. Most men don't know they should be doing Kegels. Yes, the same pelvic floor exercises women use after childbirth also benefit men. Strengthening those muscles improves urinary control and supports the prostate. I often tell my patients, your pelvic floor is the foundation of your house. If it's weak, everything above it struggles. Pillar 4 is hydration. It sounds almost too simple, but most men don't drink nearly enough water. Aim for about 2 to 3 quarts a day. Proper hydration dilutes your urine, helps flush toxins, and keeps the urinary tract running smoothly. Think of your prostate as part of a river system. When the water runs high and clear, everything flows. When it runs low, debris builds up, stagnation sets in, and problems follow. Every glass of water you drink is like a mini cleanse for your entire system. Now here's the key. None of these pillars work in isolation. One patient may benefit most from dietary changes, another from exercise, and another from early screening. But when you put them all together, you create a foundation that protects not only your prostate, but your energy, your sleep, your confidence, and your independence as a man. But advice is just theory until you see how it plays out in real life. So let me share some powerful stories of men who turn these pillars into results. Advice is powerful, but it only truly sinks in when you see it in action. That's why I want to share a few stories, not from medical journals, but from real men I've treated whose lives changed when they finally took their prostate health seriously. Let me start with Mark, a 62-year-old accountant who came to me completely drained. He was waking up 5 or 6 times a night just to urinate. His stream was weak, his sleep was shattered, and his confidence was gone. He told me, "Doc, I feel like an old man trapped in a younger body." Instead of rushing to medication, we started small. Mark added more vegetables and cooked tomatoes to his meals, began walking every morning with his wife, and practiced Kegel exercises while brushing his teeth. 3 months later, he came back with tears in his eyes, not because he was still suffering, but because he finally felt relief. He was sleeping through the night, waking up once at most. His energy returned, his mood lifted, and his wife joked that she got her husband back. Mark learned that small, consistent steps can reverse years of frustration. Then there was James, a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran. James was stubborn. He hated doctors and avoided exams for years because of the stigma around the digital rectal exam. When he finally gave in, we caught early-stage prostate cancer. Because it was caught so early, the treatment was quick, effective, and his recovery was smooth. Today, James often tells other men in his community that 15-second exam bought me 15 more years with my grandkids. He transformed his fear into a story of survival and became an advocate for others. His lesson, bravery isn't avoiding the exam. It's facing it head on. And then there's Robert, 55, a construction worker with a love for steak and fries. He never touched vegetables unless they were fried. When his PSA levels crept upward, I explained the role of inflammation and diet. Skeptical but willing to try, he began cooking chili with tomato paste twice a week and swapped soda for water. 6 months later, his PSA levels stabilized. He lost 12 pounds and his blood pressure improved. His wife told me he looks 10 years younger. Robert realized food wasn't just fuel, it was medicine. What ties these stories together is simple. None of these men made dramatic overnight changes. They didn't buy miracle pills or go under the knife. They embraced the 4 pillars: checkups, diet, exercise, hydration, and trusted the process. Each one saw results that restored not only their health, but their dignity and independence. And maybe the most important lesson is this: you don't have to wait until symptoms force you into action. You can start today. Because whether you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, your prostate is listening to the choices you make right now. So let's bring this all together, because at the end of the day, the science, the stories, and the strategies point to one powerful truth about your prostate health that every man needs to hear. As we come to the end of this conversation, let's pause and take in everything we've uncovered together. We started with a question that most men are curious about but rarely talk about out loud. What really happens to your prostate if you masturbate every day? The science gave us a surprising answer. Frequent ejaculation, about 21 times a month or more, is linked to a 33% lower risk of prostate cancer. That's not myth or rumor, that's data from decades of research. We then looked at the bigger picture, the 3 major changes your prostate goes through once you pass 40. Enlargement that squeezes the urethra and disrupts sleep hormonal shifts, where testosterone declines, but DHT keeps pushing the gland to grow, and the rising risk of abnormal cells as your body replicates billions of times. These changes explain why so many men begin to feel betrayed by their own bodies. From there, we touched on a controversial but fascinating idea, the so-called prostate clog. Whether you fully believe in it or not, the theory highlights an important truth. Your prostate responds to circulation, hydration, and the daily choices you make. And that's where the power comes back to you. Because when we turned to solutions, the 4 pillars of prostate protection made everything clear. Annual checkups to catch problems early, an anti-inflammatory diet, rich in vegetables, healthy fats, and especially cooked tomatoes for their lycopene power. Consistent movement, not extreme workouts, but daily activity, plus those overlooked Kegel exercises to strengthen your foundation. And finally, the simplest medicine of all, hydration. 2 to 3 quarts of water a day to keep everything flowing. And maybe most importantly, we ended with real stories, men just like you, who took these steps and changed their lives. Mark, who reclaimed his sleep. James, who caught cancer early and got to keep living his story. Robert, who discovered that food could be his medicine. Their journeys are proof that this isn't just theory, it works. Now, here's what I want you to remember. You cannot stop time, but you can absolutely change how your prostate responds to it. Prostate health isn't just about avoiding disease. It's about protecting your independence, your confidence, and your ability to live life on your own terms. Every choice you make is a vote for the kind of future you want. So if this video gave you something valuable, do me a favor, hit that like button so more men can find this message. Subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the practical science-based tips I'll be sharing next week. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's one habit you're ready to start this week to take better care of your prostate? Drop it in the comments below. Because when we share our experiences, we not only help ourselves, we build a community where no man has to face these challenges alone. Remember, you're stronger than you think. Your best years don't have to be behind you, and your health is worth fighting for.